Welcome everyone to We Talk Games, the once in a blue moon podcast where we cover games of our choosing, I guess. There's been quite a big break since last time, so we will reintroduce ourselves just in case anyone has forgotten. I am Mark, also known as Paul Mint Peeper.
I'm Jim, also known as Hetero691.
I'm Bob, aka We Talk Games Bob.
Aye. So, where did we leave off? I think it was we covered the first and second Resident Evil games. We also covered some of the kind of spin-off games.
The Game Boy versions of heinous.
Yes. Then we get incredibly drunk. We probably should have actually continued recording because that would have been a good lost podcast. But so we've actually confiscated all the drink from the house. We've only got energy drinks.
Generic energy drinks.
Yeah. So we may as well just jump straight to our first game, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So a quick rundown of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This originally came out for the PlayStation in Japan 22nd of September 1999, North America November 11th, and eventually the PAL regions in February 18th, 2000. It ended up obviously over the years, PC got a release over year 2000, GameCube got it in 2003, Dreamcast got it in 2000 as well, which is kinda rare and kinda pricey to pick up, to be honest. And eventually the PlayStation Network got it, so all the different kind of variations you can play that on Vita and all this. But yeah, this was one of the games I had to play, and I actually played this for the first time.
Really?
Yes. At the time I was a stalwart of the Dreamcast. Everything Sony I hated. I would go around to my friend's house, not yourselves obviously, and just kick fuck at his PlayStation when his back was turned. Yeah, I remember seeing this in the magazines and just being like, I'd turn a few pages later and just see Resident Evil Code Veronica and going, look how much better this looks, look at those graphics. No, so I just basically ignored, even though I was a big Resi fan, I ignored Resident Evil 3. It had 3 in the title, but I was like, nah, that's not the third iteration of Resi. But that's actually what I'll get to. Referred to at the time by the development team as Resident Evil 1.9 before its official title got handed to it, was originally only supposed to be a kind of almost like a spin-off. It was, I think it originally was Resident Evil Nemesis was the kind of working title, I guess, until Sony, you know, kind of looked over their contractual obligations that they had with Capcom and went, hold on a minute, you're supposed to deliver numbered titles to our consoles, not to other consoles. So yeah, Resident Evil Code Veronica was actually Resident Evil 3, but all that, I'm assuming quite a lot of people know that. Well, let's just get to the meat and bones of it. I'm playing this fucking, how many years removed? 99? Fucking hell. 15 years removed almost now. Tank controls, PlayStation graphics. I did play this on my PS2. I didn't actually mind it, to be honest. It wasn't that bad. I was expecting a lot worse because I was like, oh god, this is going to feel, because I don't even have nostalgia to get me through this. I fucking hate this game. You play as Jill Valentine, turns up in Raccoon City
With a forward roll.
Yeah, with just forward rolls out of an exploding building. They're not really given any sort of setup to that.
She like just a helicopter crashed into the top of it, but she still rolled out.
It didn't feel, even though that cutscene leads into that, it didn't feel like even watching it now as an adult, I was kind of, what's happening there? So this takes place 24 hours before Resident Evil 2, but halfway through the game it then goes forward and it's like 2 days after Resident Evil 2. It's kind of confusing. Yeah, this is really when the games start kicking up the fucking really complicated storyline, like you can't really keep track of. Is like, wait a minute, how does that work? So you don't have any choice of character in this game. You only play as Jill, which I don't mind Jill Valentine. Pretty awesome character.
The rest of our civvies.
Aye, exactly.
I thought the movie, did they not just shit on Jill pretty much? Not that I've seen them, but
in the movie they do. I'm pretty sure the movie actually lifts one of the movies. It could be the second movie. I have seen some of the movies, but well, like that Nemesis, it's in the title. He appears in the movie as well, but it's the tyrant known as Nemesis. This is this whole game's kind of game mechanic essentially, and it does make it very interesting. Because as I said, this was a blind playthrough for me, and even though I'm very aware of the game mechanics and I know he can't pop up at any moment in time, I did not know when he was going to appear. And this is a big, huge, hulking, massive behemoth of a. It's just even even just as recently as a few weeks ago, I was like, fuck, panicking, trying to run around them, because like sometimes they appear and almost block you in. I'm trying to run around the bastard and just leaving. You always have a choice, and it's stay and fight, I believe,
or jump out a window.
Yeah, so I would jump out windows, or I would just like, nah, screw this. Once or twice I tried to stay and fight, thinking, well, what does he drop? But yeah, I just get my ass kicked. The tank controls, I'm not as good with them as I probably used to be.
I remember he used to have a kind of special dash move. Was that?
He's got a dash move. He's got. He also kind of grab you, like something comes out his hand. It's like a spike almost comes out his hand, or like a tentacle. Yeah, he kind of walks around slowly, but it's hard getting. Even if you've got an open space, it's hard because of the camera angles. Getting an angle on him and enough time to turn and get down a line of sight on him and shoot him a couple of times, but it takes so much, so many shots, and it's really not worth it. I am a complete conservative, like when it comes to my bullets in games, and if I can just run by zombies and dogs, I will just run by zombies and dogs. I just see them as just a waste of bullets and no doubt health. But I really did enjoy that, and at the time that must have been awesome. Really.
Well, I remember reading in a magazine it was saying they can attack at any time. It was be like, well,
as if it's random almost.
Yeah, say like nowadays they call them roguelikes. That'll be like a roguelike. You can go through a door and he'll pop out at you, but no, it was just scripted. And
it's when you play through it a second and third time, you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Because this was my favourite. Maybe apart from Resi 4, was probably one of my favourites. Resi 3, just played it to death on the original PS1.
PS2, no?
PS1.
PS1.
I thought it was PS2.
No, PS2 wasn't out.
You said PS2?
It eventually came out on. I played it on the PS2 because it's got backwards compatibility.
No, it wasn't this time.
I'm a resident. Hetero. Anyway, aye. So played the absolute death out of it. I loved everything about the game. I loved the fact that he could appear at any time. I loved that. Your heart would be racing. Going,
yeah,
oh,
you
God.
would not feel calm at any moment, really, because he usually, like as I said, you would run by certain enemies and you just get to the door. As soon as you're through that door and you know that that's like all a safe area, like there's no enemies, you can kind of calm, but you couldn't really, because you're like, that bastard might just turn up. Sometimes he turns up really announced, like crashing through something or jumping through a door or whatever,
and he can climb upstairs.
Yeah, or sometimes you just walk through an area and you think, why is the music kind of kicking in like that? And he just suddenly appears because the camera angle is working against you. You're like, holy shit.
It's probably the fact it went photo negative as well. That kind of takes you out of your element. You're used to the normal bright or darkness or colour, whatever, and then it just hit that bright white with the photo negative. You go, Jesus, I've only got a couple of seconds to make my choice before they'll kill me.
But I'll just list a couple of things. I've got a few wee notes here. Things I hated. Ammo creation. This was the first time you could do this in the Resi game, and it sucked. There might be people that really enjoy this sort of thing, but I hate that.
Bullets.
Yeah, I'm just like, I conserve enough bullets anyway. I'm used to having hardly any bullets, and then it's kind of what was happening is like, should I create bullets? And it just ate up in inventory space, which is a pain in the arse from Resi games. The really nice thing actually was the 180 spin. First game to have that.
To just push back or something, wasn't it?
Back in the action button, and you do a complete 180. So that is awesome. That is possibly the best thing they ever introduced to the earlier Resident Evil games, because it was like dealing with the tank controls was a pain in the arse, just turning around and running. So that was really useful. And for the first time in a Resident Evil game, actual exploding barrels.
Oh yeah.
Believe it or not. Yeah, I did not know this. I wasn't really aware
Because
of
I remember doing that, as we spoke about a little bit previous, about setting it on easy. So you start off with a machine gun, and it doesn't give you an amount of bullets, it just says percentage.
Yeah.
So you had that, and I remember aiming at the barrel, trying to shoot a zombie, and then the barrel's exploding by proxy, and going, is that meant to happen? Can you do that? And then doing it again later, going, yeah.
Yeah. It's when you get into that wee corridor, street, and it's you see the zombies that bust over the barricade, and there's a big red barrel, and the game is basically, it may as well come up with a big tutorial of shoot this, that'll explode, because you just wait long enough for them all to get round it, and then you shoot it, and awesome feeling.
Limbs
still
go
is.
everywhere.
Yeah. It's quite a short game, similar to Resident Evil 1 and 2. Basically, it is quite short. Storyline, fucking hell. I couldn't actually tell you really what happened. Just that the Nemesis would turn up, then eventually big blob of a creature he became. Fought that. You basically run around it and press buttons, essentially. Run around it, press buttons, put that on, activate the laser gun or whatever the fuck it was, and you destroy him. Everybody wins. But this game actually had it was something called live selection mode, and for some reason in my mind it was almost like Resident Evil 2 had this, but it didn't. And it was certain choices in the game, obviously we're talking about that, choose to run or not. You have slightly different outcomes, slightly different cutscenes, like any other Resident Evil game. Complete the game, you unlock more modes, all that sort of stuff. But I'd say if anyone like myself had played the original Resident Evil games, knows what they're getting into with the tank controls and
the fixed camera angles.
Yeah, fixed camera angles, bollocks, controls, stuff like that. It is definitely worth a play, because it isn't too bad, isn't too long, and you can pick it up really cheap now. Like for fucking, look at the list of consoles and PlayStation Network type things now you can get it for. So yeah, anything else to add to that?
No, just to say, great game, loved it, and as I think we spoke about maybe earlier on, that I'd actually picked this up for the GameCube when they ported it years ago later. I think James had played that as well.
I played last year, just bored, didn't have anything to play, and
just fired through it.
That was, I think that was maybe part of the Nintendo contract that they did that, and they went, okay, well, we port the game, so they ported, obviously remade and ported the original, and then Resident Evil 2 I think it's slight upscaling, 3 got upscaling,
and also there was was it Zero? Yeah,
that's one game I don't think I've even covered. I don't think we haven't.
I played it years ago.
I used to own this game and I never even played it.
Really?
Seriously.
The thing was, it was like co-op but with the AI.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You had to keep dropping your items and stuff.
Spell on his arm, like that guy had something spelled on his arm and his tattoo. I can't remember what it was.
But yeah, the GameCube at that time also got Code Veronica X. It was 2003. It seemed like basically all the Resident Evil games either get remade or.
I think that's the time when the Dreamcast died, and they went, well, how much money can we make by porting to PS2 and
I'm glad they did, because that's how I've managed to. I actually do have my Dreamcast copy down there somewhere, but the Dreamcast is loud as fuck reading the discs. So I decided to play on the PS2. But so Resident Evil 3, a thumbs up. Next game we're covering, almost in chronological order, is Resident Evil Code Veronica, originally released for the Dreamcast, the best console ever, in the year 2000. Japan, North America and PAL all released between February and May, quite close together for once, not too shabby. Obviously the Dreamcast ended up dying, but the game lived on in other consoles. It came out in the PS2 in 2001 as Code Veronica X, GameCube 2003, and eventually Xbox 360 and PS3 in 2011. And I'm pretty sure you can get like digital downloads of it now on the PlayStation Network as well as Xbox Live Arcade. This is the first fully 3D Resident Evil game to come out. So a lot of people might even think like Resi 4 has been that, almost in a weird way, but this is fully 3D, although they still stick with the
rendered,
pre-rendered.
No, there's no pre-rendered backgrounds, all 3D backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's just the camera angles are still stuck, at an angle. There is no movement of camera as such.
Fixed cameras.
Yeah. This game sees the first half of the game you play as Claire Redfield, awesome, and the second half Chris Redfield, even awesomer. Yeah, this game is like one of my favourites. I got it on release day for the Dreamcast. Was looking forward to it for years and years and years. I played it to death. I must have probably played through, completed it, started replaying it again. I just kept doing that, I think, basically until I almost wore out the fucking laser on the Dreamcast. But I love this game. Recently replayed through it because Jim couldn't be arsed, and I was looking for any excuse to replay the game. To be honest, I was like, "What's that? You've only played half an hour? I'll pick up the slack. It's fine. I'll pick up the slack." Made myself out to be a martyr, but really I was like, yes.
I should have got this game from the beginning.
Yep. Because the whole idea was to try and give us something we either haven't played in a while. Like I had never played Resi 3, so it was quite it was good that. So we're trying to cover all different ones that we weren't really as such used to. But so I replayed this on the PS2. Resident Evil Code Veronica X, the only difference being it comes on one disc, obviously, a DVD.
Is there any differences between
I picked it up on pre-owned for, was it £3, £4? And it was a pre-owned copy I bought, and it was pre-owned from Dixon's. Instead of paying £50 for it, it was reduced down to £48, which I thought was a sweet deal for the person who bought it.
Oh my god.
£40 for a
So
game.
the difference has been in Code Veronica X, very, very, very small graphical updates. Not too much you'll probably be able to see unless you put it side by side. Because the Dreamcast still pretty tidy looking, to be honest. It has 9 additional minutes of cutscenes, basically cutscenes go on slightly longer. It seems, and that fills up that 9 minutes throughout the game.
For 3 seconds longer per go.
Essentially, I couldn't really notice that. I was replaying it, obviously my memory's a wee bit hazy, but there was nothing there that I was like, oh, can I remember this? Although memories came flooding back literally 15 minutes into the game, no even, and I'm fucking Steve. For some reason, I think Resident Evil Code Veronica, and I must have just blanked on Steve, because Steve is a wee dickhead who you're supposed to find, I think, charming and kind of cheeky, he's a rascal, that Steve. No, he's a fucking idiot. There's a bit in the game, right, where you go into this section, you lift the 2 guns off the wall, and the room starts putting poisonous gas in, pumped into the room. So you put it back on, and you're like, alright, I'll get to that later. So you leave the room, literally, somehow Steve sneaks by you, don't know how, and the alarm starts going off again. You're like, wait a minute, how's that? You run back, fucking Steve's in there, and you're like, let go of his guns, put them back in the wall, and he's like, no. So you have to save him, and he doesn't even give you the fucking guns. The ungrateful dick. So you have to, it's the usual kind of prolonging the gameplay. You need to then get something to swap for him. You even get to play as a wee bellend for a wee while in the game as well.
Did you get yourself killed quite a lot when you played the sim?
Yeah, it was really difficult not to just run and jump out the nearest window off the side of a cliff. Yeah, I'm really not a fan of Steve. At the time, I really remember, see, as soon as the cutscene started playing, I was like, oh my god, I forgot all about Steve.
So that when he's up in the balcony shooting at you?
Shooting at you.
Aye.
And it all came flooding back, and I remember at the time, so this is, was that 2000, sorry, early 2000 I had this game, and it was, I remember at the time thinking, he's like Leonardo DiCaprio. It's just because he had the floppy hair. That's what I think all it was. And at the time I was like, DiCaprio shit. You know, I think all he'd done at the time was like Titanic and the beach.
Prove me wrong, children.
Exactly. Ended up swallowing those words many a year later. Yeah, I forgot also how awesome. I remember Alfred Ashford being an awesome bad guy, but I just forgot how awesomely camp this guy is. He hams it up to to 11. It's fucking fantastic. Spoilers, he dresses as his sister, because throughout the game you're playing it and you're like, you hear his sister speaking, and you spy around the corner and you hear her speaking to him, and you just hear the voices going back and forth, and you see her, well actually you see the back of her, so you see a woman in a dress. You think nothing of it, and I remember at the time thinking nothing of it. See the reveal, when it gets revealed to you that this sister's been comatose the whole time in some sort of big vat of water type thing, and it was Alfred dressed as her. Oh, he's been cross-dressing, the dirty rascal.
I was say it was like a thingy, was it Norman Bates or something?
Yeah, very much. Like, obviously replaying it now as an adult, seen many a movie now, you know, this didn't faze me.
Hollywood ripped off.
Yeah, basically, I think, even though Sixth Sense came out in '99, I think Sixth Sense ripped this off. So that was quite a kind of like midway through the game, you kind of get that twist, which was kind of cool. The game, it feels it's definitely one of the longer Resident Evil games, and it feels it actually. See, when you're playing it, as I said at the time, loving
Filler?
it.
Oh.
A lot of filler. I know Capcom games are kind of known for this, the backtracking thing, and that's a main staple of the Resident Evil games, but I don't know, it feels like a lot of filler in small areas, like that. You go in, lift the guns off room, you realise, right, I need something, you automatically think, I need something that's shaped like that to put on the wall, you know, like Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 1, yeah.
Yeah, so you're assuming that it's a nice wee nod to the original game. You literally take about 15 steps outside the room, then you have to go back in, press a button, stuff, and save Steve, and then he's got the guns you need, and then he goes, no, you're not getting them. Give me something else, worth swapping for, or something like that, right? So you're like, for fuck's sake. Like, I don't know, that felt like such filler, because you then go, and you have to travel quite a bit. A lot of empty areas as well, which is weird. I didn't realise just how unused a lot of this space is, because I think they were kind of like,
look how much we have.
Yeah, new hardware, 3D backgrounds, let's get everything bigger, and it just feels kind of empty.
They just made from what I played of, it's just they seem to make short corridors, long corridors.
Well, there's right at the beginning of the game, there's a bit where you have to go right round this one area, right? And the game makes you do that about 3 times before it gives you the key to unlock a gate, which cuts that. So
yeah, I think I didn't even get that key. I think I just binned the game after that.
And so once you get that key, there's this whole big area that's completely unused from then on. Like, it's not even as if, because you still have to backtrack a wee bit, you know, like in that area. It feels weird. It feels kind of. They were obviously wanting to show the newest things we can do, look how much bigger this game is than the other ones, which, you know, is impressive and would have been impressive at the time, but probably didn't actually help the gameplay. Storyline, I was actually just saying this before we started recording, I could not tell you a storyline. I was playing through it, but not that way. I wasn't really paying much attention to it when the cutscenes were going. I was just sitting watching it.
Yeah, basically the
taking-
main storyline is Claire needs to find Chris. Chris wants
Yes.
to find Claire.
Yep. And halfway
There's a
through the
cross-dresser
game,
halfway through.
yeah, halfway through the game, you think who the main bad guy's going to be, and it gets revealed. Basically he gets killed halfway through the game. You're like, oh, and then his sister awakens, and then Wesker pops up, and you're just like, what is going on? So the usual convoluted mess. No doubt there's people who really know the ins and outs of the Resident Evil history and timelines and stuff, but like, oh, it's so easy, it's simple. But no, for somebody that's not really sitting there taking notes or whatever when it comes to the storyline, I didn't really follow it.
Just stick to the big blocks.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the game. Really enjoyed it. It just felt a bit too long. Typical tank controls, you've still got the 180 spin, there's auto aim, which is nice. You've actually got the first time double wielding.
That's what I was going to say,
wield.
dual wielding. That was the very first thing I remember about seeing pictures for it back in the day, and going up to your house and seeing it, going, God, Claire has dual
Yeah.
pistols.
And when you would dual wield, she would sometimes aim at two different zombies.
That's right.
So it wasn't even as if it was like a typical like a dual wield stance. It was like she would
Yeah, it wasn't
actually
like Tomb Raider
aim.
style.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I'm trying to think if there's really anything else to cover on it. A lot of people might have missed this one, sadly, but there's a million and one ways you can play this now, and I think like that you can pick it up for like 50 pence and stuff in like second hand shops, whatever. Dirt cheap, well worth even a couple of quid to play this game. Yeah, enjoyed it.
I liked what I didn't like what I played of it. I'm lying because I backtracked under my head in.
But there is really early on in the game, it's almost like the game tries to put you off, because the game does get better once you start the story starts moving, and the action kind of picks up, because this is when Resident Evil 3 had quite a lot of actual zombies, a lot more zombies, a lot more guns in it, wee bit more action. This one kind of the same, although the first third of the game I would say there's not really a lot going on, weirdly. Usually games try and kind of throw you in and like, oh, look how much action there is, now sit down and do these puzzles for the next wee while before you get to the next action area. No, Resident Evil just makes you fucking run for ages, gather stuff, until eventually you start fighting bosses and things like that. But aye, cool game. Anything else?
No, just that what we were saying earlier on. It's a game I haven't played myself, but I wanted to play so much. I never had a Dreamcast early on.
Mm-hmm.
I was always the PlayStation and the PS1, and I was like, oh, I'm so envious of people who had it. I just remember sitting playing Resident Evil 3 all the time, going, I love this game, but Code Veronica looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was light years ahead of whatever I'd played before.
Yeah, it was such a jump. That's another thing I didn't really mention. At the time, it was a huge jump. Resident Evil 3 and this game came out in similar time. It was 6 months basically apart, and the jump. Obviously it's on different hardware, but just graphically at the time, it was light years above the muddy, glitchy looking of the earlier Resident Evil games, the textures and stuff.
Let's not forget the cool thing about the VMU, showed your health, so you don't have to go into your pause menu every single time.
Yes, amazing. Bring back the VMU.
Apart from give it a longer battery,
Yeah,
because it's annoying when you turn your Dreamcast on, it makes that beep.
just PS4 and Xbox One, bring back the VMU or a VMU like, even for football games, because if you score a goal or score a basket, it goes either swoosh or goal on your VMU, and you're like, yay! Amazing.
That actually was quite cool. I did enjoy that, the fact you didn't have to pause to see it after you get beaten up by a zombie, because you could go, well, do I need to take, I think, no, I'm alright, I'm on caution rather than danger.
Exactly, no, I've completely forgotten about that. That was such a cool wee feature, and was probably one of the very few times the VMU was actually used to help the gameplay instead of just being a kind of pointless,
A gimmick.
Yeah, instead of just displaying the game's name on your VMU. So I know what I'm playing.
MSR's time.
Right, so we'll move on to our next one.
L'endroit où vous vous sentiez le plus en sécurité, le plus confortable, le plus aimé. Cet endroit n'existera plus jamais. Resident Evil 4.
The game I think every one of us have been looking forward to talking about is Resident Evil 4. So I'll just quickly run down what this originally came out for. The GameCube in 2005, North America and Japan got it as early as January 2005, and then it was, the PAL version was March, so not too bad, but it seemed a long wait. The PS2 version came out later in the year. I thought in 2005, November and December respectively for North America, Jap and PAL. PC 2007, Wii 2007. Phones, iOS and Android phones apparently get a version of this game, and then Xbox 360 and PS3 get the digital download versions in 2011. But
Steam as well last year, no?
yeah, PC originally came out in 2007. Then it got it just get kind of rebooted
HD, yeah.
almost for a half decent version, because the original PC version is an absolute mess of a convert. But these guys, you had it actually earlier than March.
Yep. As soon as I heard the game come out, ever since I'd played Resident Evil 3, I loved it, and then I'd seen Mark playing Code Veronica. I thought, God, I need something else to fill the time, because in between, we'll get to these games later, or at least one game in between. I'd played a couple of shooters which were terrible, but we'll get to them later on. As soon as I heard it was out, I went into an infamous shop in Glasgow that likes to sell games early, and it did at the time actually do legit imports. You could import games and ask for them to bring them in. So I went up and I'd seen that they'd been selling Resident Evil 4.
Mm-hmm.
This was in January. This was basically right after Christmas, so I'd still had some money saved over, and I'd still had some of my own money, and I was like, God, if they have it in, I'm going to go out my way and actually buy it. Went in, I was like, have you got it? Have you got Resident Evil 4? And it says, yep. It says, okay, but I want to be able to play it. Do you have a chipped GameCube, basically? And they went, no, but we do sell a freeloader. And this was how people don't really have this problem anymore, because most consoles now are kind of region free. But you used to have to put up a disc first, like an action replay style, plug it in, and it'd say, put in your game, done that, and it was brilliant. I remember just coming home, buying the GameCube, buying a memory card, buying Resident Evil, buying the freeloader, and basically being in Glasgow for about 15 minutes, going, I got all this, and now we need to get the next train home. So ran on, got the train.
The longest train journey home ever.
Pulling it out, looking at the box, looking at the GameCube box, looking at the memory card box, freeloader, going, wow, this is going to be amazing, and just know everything I'd seen on it was brilliant. And home, played it, I was like, fuck, this game is so awesome. Actually played it, and first thing I noticed was it looks so different. It feels so different compared to any Resident Evil I've played before. Different camera angle, you were behind Leon's shoulder to the right hand side. You could only, not like every other Resident Evil, you could see their whole body. You could basically see torso, maybe a little bit of leg, and everything was from a behind the head perspective, and the controls felt so fluid. And I think we'd watched Let It Go before about how amazing the GameCube controller actually was.
Yeah.
And it was just perfect. Everything felt, you could use the C control pad, was the one you could flick it rather than pushing action and backwards. Yeah, if you just flick that backwards, you would do a 180, and everything was brilliant, and that just controlled the game. Felt like it was built around the controller.
Was there any fisticuffs over who was playing the game at the time, or he's kicking back enjoying somebody playing it?
I bought it, so I was playing it first.
At college at the time, I think we had different days off, but I remember playing it, and it's up there with one of the only games I've ever played and said, this is game of the year.
Yeah,
and
what
it's
you
January.
just knew then and there.
I knew then and there, and ended up being the game of the year. And no other game I've done that with was Ni no Kuni, and it's the only game I've ever said, this is game of the year, and it's right slap bang the beginning of the month, the beginning of the year.
I know, but Ni no Kuni and Enchanted Arms.
I wouldn't say Enchanted Arms, but
As soon as that guy
year.
get out his
Saxophone.
saxophone, you're like, give me a year right now.
But I remember I felt so smug though, I don't know if anyone else has ever felt that
No.
kind of feeling before. You're
Um,
getting to play a game before anybody else and going up to your mates and going, you need to play Resident Evil as soon as it comes out.
Do you want
need
to bring
play
up your
that.
GameCube? Nah. Don't break it.
So I didn't own a GameCube at this time. I used to buy magazines, even though I had the internet and stuff. I was still buying magazines regularly, and it looked amazing. I was just like, look at that, look at those graphics, and I was like, I need to buy a GameCube. Actually, that came right after going round to yourselves' house, playing it, seeing it. I don't think I even played it at first. I was just watch his play, and then I was just like, I was watching it, and it was just kind of like one of the very few times you're saying Game of the Year. I wasn't thinking Game of the Year. All I was thinking is, I need to buy that console.
Yeah.
And it was one of those. I know the term console seller gets kind of bandied about now. That was one of maybe like 2 times that I've actually looked at a game and went, I need to own that console for that one game. I wasn't even thinking about any other GameCube game. I don't think it was real interest, which is mental to think about. But I had to wait till March because I didn't have pocket money, or I didn't have a wee windfall from my birthday or Christmas. I didn't save my money, so I had to wait till March, and that was a long wait, I'll tell you that.
Did you get the limited edition version, or did you get the silver GameCube?
I got I bought, it wasn't the combo deal.
No.
So I basically bought the GameCube that week.
Yep.
Yous had the game, so this was still January, maybe February at the time, and yous had the game. I knew I couldn't own the game, but I was like, I'll own the GameCube. I'll just buy the GameCube to now. Not realising that if I would have held off, I'd be able to get the actual Resident Evil console.
Because I remember you got it. I couldn't actually remember if you got the silver version.
It was a Mario Kart Double Dash deal thing, but which was an okay game. So that tidied me over for a wee tiny bit till that game. So I replayed through this recently. It was one of the games that was definitely on my list, and the console I played it through on was actually the PS2, which is actually not the strongest version. The strongest version is still definitely GameCube.
Definitely.
It's weird that it's been ported, as I was listing there, it's been ported to all these different consoles. To be fair, I haven't played it the digital only on Xbox 360 or PS3. Don't know how they fare, but the PS2 version, it's slightly weaker graphically, and it is kind of noticeable. It's actually surprisingly noticeable because there's something happens to the aspect ratio. There's widescreen. That's another thing. Obviously, it's a widescreen game.
Yep.
First Resident Evil game that is widescreen.
Is it?
Naturally, yes. You have the option to put widescreen, which sounds mental nowadays. But the other games are all like, because that was kind of. It was funny because I played Resident Evil 4 first before touching the older games. Probably shouldn't have done that because it is probably the best actual whole game that as a whole package. It is probably the best Resident Evil game because it gets the balance right, I feel, between action
And
puzzles
and quick time events.
the introduction of quick time events to your Resident Evil. How do we feel about that?
I thought it was awesome at the time. The very first time the boulder rolls at you, or the big goblin tries to squish you.
I missed it every time. The first time, because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I always missed it the first time.
Even though you'd been homed them into Shenmue,
Yeah.
playing Lucky Strike or whatever it was, Lucky Hit.
Then I'm sure we said, if we haven't said it on the podcast, I'll say it right now. Shenmue is the first game to have proper, what we call quick time events, right?
QTEs.
Yeah, the actual QTE. I know there were Saturn games and all that earlier that had something kind of similar, but the QTE, and I still think the Shenmue version's the best version of a QTE. It gets everything, the balance, the timing.
Even I always thought about, we're going off on a tangent here, but Shenmue warned you that it was happening with that.
Yeah, the wee
ticking
noise.
And then you went, right, okay, I need to think here, and then it comes up on the screen, and it wasn't like life or death.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't push right quick enough,
just
you get hit in
feels-
the head with a football.
It feels very quick on Resident Evil, because sometimes like certain cutscenes don't have QTEs. Obviously, not every cutscene does. You don't know when it's going to happen.
Usually, if you're
know.
sitting playing, you have got the control in your lap,
Yeah.
or it's not in your hand all the time. So,
So when that guy comes in, when you and that you're chained up to that. Leon's chained up to this. By the way, Leon's in this game, but who listens to a gaming podcast and has never played Resident Evil 4? We don't have to go into the storyline too much, but it's when you're chained up to that guy, and so you're watching the cutscene, and I'm sure the cutscene's been going on for a good maybe 30 seconds or so, and there's nothing kind of happening. Guy comes in with a massive axe and obviously going to do some nasty business with it, swings it at you, and it just quickly flashes up, and I remember at the time going, oh yeah, like no, and getting the controller, because I sat it was resting on my lap, I wasn't expecting it. That kind of bugged me at the time, but it wasn't as if it was like, oh, this game's terrible. I was just like, oh, I need to get that next time, because I was really wanting to further the storyline and get further into the game. So I replayed it in PS2. Controls, not so good.
As we spoke about before, I feel this game was built around the controller. Everything just felt perfect about it. The control was amazing on it. Nothing.
It's definitely easier to aim. See, like especially with the pistol, the laser.
That's what I was going to say. I remember that blew my mind at the time, because you could. I've got something in my head that you could shoot targets as bonus items.
Yeah,
you shoot things off of trees and stuff as well.
There's loads of wee kind of it's like blue dangling. I can't even remember what they're called. You can shoot them, that unlocks things. There's little wee mini games you can do through the game. There's wee areas you go into, and it's like a wee dude similar to the "What are you buying?" guy. You go in, and it's like you go in, and you can it's like a shooting range, and you try and unlock. It's more guns and stuff and money and all this, because that's another thing. You've got the merchant, right? Yeah. The merchant, which is obviously one of the most like quoted fucking video game guys ever. Don't know actually what. Really, when you think about it, like if we're speaking as Resident Evil as kayfabe, if we treat it as kayfabe, what is this guy all about?
Why is he always ahead of you? How does he know?
See, this was so cool. I remember thinking this is so cool though, because you always feel you were furthering the storyline, but you were also, it was almost like RPG elements in a way, because you were furthering your arsenal.
You were leveling up your guns. You could buy certain things to do them up, make them stronger.
Yeah, quick fire.
Yeah,
pistol automatic.
It was absolutely awesome. That I really enjoyed that. It feels, as I was saying, the PS2 controller, the thumbsticks feel too loose.
Mm-hmm.
They feel far too loose on Resident Evil 4 for the aiming, for trying to get those headshots. Yeah. Especially when those guys with the shields, because you need to aim at their feet if you're only stuck with a pistol or whatever. So it was very, very difficult. It was actually really tough with it. The controls, wee bit clunky. Like, obviously we're a wee bit more used to it. I'm used to the whole over-the-shoulder type gameplay. Yep. I mean, Gears of War and all this, right? But it's definitely not as fluid, but it literally takes maybe 5 minutes and to get used to it, and then you're used to it. It just feels, it's nowhere near as clunky as going back to the tank controls. Yeah. But technically it still kind of feels tank-ish.
Yeah, it feels more fluid than Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, but compared to any other game that we've played recently, any sort of third person shooter you play, and you've got 360 degree control over these players, it's quite clunky compared to that, but night and day above any other game. And it,
at the time especially,
redefined the genre of third person shooters. It was,
well, not only relaunched the Resident Evil franchise, it completely relaunched the whole third person franchise.
Capcom done it again. It's like they brought out survival horror per se, and then they did everything else towards this, and then everyone went, well, wait a minute, we can do things like this. We will be able to go over shoulders, we will be able to play it the way it is. But if we're going to do a slight tangent just now, I don't know if anyone remembers talking about controls. You remember the limited edition control pad they brought out for the GameCube? And I remember thinking, God,
the chainsaw?
Yep. I remember being in HMV and thinking, man, I wish I never owned 4 GameCube controls already, because I would totally buy that.
And for those of us who are watching this on YouTube, you are now quickly glance at your YouTube video, because there will be a lovely picture of that lovely control pad, which I did at the time think looked cool, and now think looks an absolute monster of a control
How could
pad.
you play it?
I don't know. Uncomfortably.
I remember they actually brought it out for the PS2 as well. It was a PlayStation 2 chainsaw controller as well, but I think it might have been silver.
You still see it like in shops. Like, see if you go into like these the wee kind of more so smaller like retailers of like games and stuff. They still have like wee like glass cabinets. It's like, you know, collectibles, and I still see that controller in those cabinets. I was like, look at that! It's absolutely disgusting. That, you know, just.
I remember everything about it though. Like, I remember they brought out this limited edition version of the game, and you got the control pad with it, and the box was made to look like a kind of display cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
One half had the chainsaw sticking at one end, and the other half had the handle of the chainsaw kicking out, and it had blood on it. And it was like, wow,
Yeah, the yellow.
that was so cool.
You look like a right prick playing that.
Yeah. But it would fit perfectly in Resident Evil.
So I've got loads of notes actually here, a surprising amount of notes to be honest, on this game, and one of them just jumped out at me here. You no longer need ink ribbons for typewriters.
Yes.
How freeing was that? That was amazing. Like, honestly, see, even replaying it, I'd forgotten about it. I was like, well, I just got to the typewriter and I can just save.
Oh, don't get me started. Remember, I said this months ago now, talking about Resident Evil 1 and my Sega Saturn save. Spent ages finding a ink cartridge, ink ribbon, and then saved the game. And because my Sega Saturn had no battery left in it, I lost my save. But yeah, not having to save in just the GameCube is. Sorry, the Resident Evil 4 was just really, really good. Everything about it was amazing. I've nothing bad to say about this game at all.
So I'll just fire through some of my notes. Sorry, you
I was going
want
to say the only bad thing I remember is the whole you can look up her skirt and she calls you a pervert.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not that I've done it.
Yeah, that's another thing. Good wee part of this game is an escort mission, essentially.
Oh, she's not a fucking idiot.
Should really hinder the game, but the game almost is kind of like the game knows it's going to be a pain in the arse, and it's like, just put her in a bin, mate. Just put her in a bin.
But that's been a stalwart of every single Resident Evil though. There is that Resident Evil 1, if you were Chris, you had Rebecca.
Yeah. But I'll put it this way, I'd take her, the president's daughter, over fucking Steve any day of the week. Steve can fucking just fuck right off, right? Keep Steve out my game. Fucking dick. So I'll just quickly go through some of my notes here. And when I was playing it, again, not really paying much attention to the storyline. That it's not zombies this time, it's Los something. What was it called? Los. I can't remember.
I've just got that stupid sauce. I'll get
Los Manos. So the bad guy throughout the game, that you it's a guy in a robe, it's kind of blah blah blah. Part of his plan only works because he tells me his plan. Right? I can't really remember it too much because my note is just as simple as that. But it's basically, I remember when I was playing it and just went, wait a minute, that doesn't make fucking sense. It's like he relied on me doing something there that, no, he had no idea whether I would do it.
He injects you with some sort of serum that makes you.
You feel, I think it's supposed to literally inject a bit of like I need to get through this game quickly, because fucking Leon's dying, man.
He's going to become Swerve. He's going to be the Nemesis.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, Leon can wait, okay? There's a blue thing sparkling up there, and I'm going to try and shoot it with a shitty PS2 controller.
Honestly, I downloaded the HD remake on Steam, and I just plugged in the 360 pad. Jesus, it's bad.
Aye.
And the control is terrible. Tried to use mouse and keyboard, it's even worse.
That's
it's
insane.
Terrible. I don't know if I went back and played it on GameCube, it would probably be good, but playing it the HD with the 360 pad is because you're that used to having that's fucking
Twitch.
Your second.
What, on the GameCube?
No, on the. When you're playing a third person, you can move the camera around.
Oh yeah.
You use that and it just spins you around. That's trying to get out of that habit.
As we said, it's like over the shoulder, but it's still a fixed camera over your shoulder.
It's so you're like it's yeah, kind of similar, still kind of.
You feel
like
you
tank
have more
controls.
freedom, but you don't as it is legit. It just feels you've got a cameraman walking behind you.
We were discussing this actually before recording, as like they've obviously purposely chosen that, like, because it feels as if the camera's almost too close to Leon, but blocking some of your view, because half your screen is Leon essentially, and it feels too close, but it does create a claustrophobic atmosphere, especially when you're in the castle and you've got you've got 5 or 6 enemies slowly walking towards you, and you're
feel
slightly getting a
swarmed.
panic. Yeah, you do, and it. I mean, that's what horror games are all about. It's so I was just looking. It wouldn't be a Capcom game. Backtracking, obviously, not as much as Code Veronica, not as long as Code Veronica, but Capcom game, Resi game, there is backtracking, but the areas look nice. There's loads of hidden things in the areas, so you don't really mind, because you're walking back the way and you're getting different points of view. So you start and you see, like that, you see a blue shiny or whatever, you know. So they put things in the area to make it, even at the very least, to make it more interesting to backtrack, because there's things you've missed. I really enjoyed that. Loads of unlockables, again, like any other Resident Evil game, but it's actually insane. There's like massive game modes and stuff that when I was playing it and unlocking it on the PS2, I was like, this would be DLC now.
Yeah.
There's no way they would give you this
Not
much
be
for free.
Capcom's on the disc DLC.
Yes, disc locked content. Absolute bullshit. The actual castle environment did remind me of Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
So it did. It's quite funny because that, as we know, originally Devil May Cry came from one of the iterations they kind of bandied about for Resident Evil 4.
But the other iteration, was one of them not you were fighting the Mist, Stephen King style?
Yes. It looked like Resident Evil 4 meets Alan Wake.
One Wake, yeah.
Yeah, it looked quite interesting, to be honest.
Almost like Silent Hill. Just fog everywhere.
Yeah. That version, I wish at the time there was loads of leaks. I remember Doom 3 got an alpha leak and all that. Half-Life 2 got an alpha leak and all this. I was kind of hoping one day that would have got a leak, but no,
it's not.
Not. There's weird face hugger creatures in this. I forgot all about them because they're only in a very small section of the game where there's sand, and you're just quickly running through the area, but it's like spider / face huggers. Absolutely gave me the heebies. Hated them.
It was nice though. This game did have at least a different variants of enemies. Like you had Snackhead, who killed you with a chainsaw if you get close enough to you.
Yeah.
Whip off your head.
What an awesome death scene.
That was as we were saying, different box art. The box art for I had was pink almost. It was the US box art, and then the forefront was Leon, but over his shoulder was Sackhead. He was the man with the chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you had villagers which threw TNT at you.
TNT,
Yep.
pickaxes, forks.
Yeah.
Then
They
you
would
had-
just be like randomly up on roofs and stuff, lobbing knives at you and all this. You're like, oh,
And that was like you could kick the ladders down and they would put the ladders back up.
so good. Oh, well, we didn't even. Christ, we need to cover the section. How good was the section in the cabin when you have to survive for a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
They're just similar to the start of the game, obviously, where you're in the town having to survive. Well, this is a cabin and you're trying to block the windows and they're smashing through the cabinets and stuff and coming through, and oh, so good. You're running up and down stairs.
It's the Shenmue 50-man battle.
Oh, awesome. I remember dying so many times originally playing through that section, but I enjoyed it every single time because
Yeah.
it was like I was slowly learning how best to deal with them and saving my grenades for this part and all that. So good. Boss battles again. Boss battles were awesome. Like, you know, bigger and a lot more gruesome, and yeah.
It wasn't just a big slow lumbering person you were fighting. It was different variants. Again, as we said, that everything about this game, even though it wasn't zombies per se you were fighting, the enemies were 10 times better.
How scary was it when you're playing the game and you're shooting these zombie-like guys, you're just treating them like zombies, then you shoot the head off and you're going, nice shot, you're congratulating yourself going, look at that head, that just exploded at our beach. And then this thing-like creature, if anyone's ever seen John Carpenter's movie, fucking sprouts out his neck hole and just
Basically-
starts swinging at you.
It's what came out the tyrant's hand.
No,
Sorry, not tyrant. Sorry, the Nemesis.
It's terrifying. That I just honestly took me aback when I originally played that. I was like that, and even now, I mean, it doesn't scare me, but I'm like, oh, you bastard! Like, no, like you do dread it.
That's what you got from Resident Evil though. When you aimed your shotgun perfectly, the guy's head, his head exploded. You didn't have to waste any more ammo on him. Whereas this one was, his head exploded, so let your guard down for a second. Nope, he's now
whipping you.
Yeah.
So it felt as if the game really did keep you on its toes. It also felt as if the game, like the game designers were really conscious of trying new things. So obviously not only with the camera angle, the completely different controls. There's sections in the game, so we've covered the QTEs, that was new. I'm a bit so on it. Don't mind them, but it's very few of them, so it's not too bad. It doesn't kill you with them, but I can take or leave them. They had driving sections. You don't drive, but so the president's daughter's driving and you're in the back, like kinda having to basically shoot
Metal Gear
zombies and
Solid
stuff.
1 style.
Didn't really enjoy that. Felt it really heightened these controls aren't that good because I'm stuck on a tiny wee vehicle and I'm struggling to turn around.
Again, padding it out.
Yeah, that felt kinda, again, they were trying something new but didn't really work for me. This is basically my only real complaints about it. I mean, they're not even real complaints, it's just a wee thing that didn't work. I'm just again looking at my notes. I've got a note here saying love the Magnum. Headshots are delicious. The end credits, I did not remember this, but the end credits get a really nice slideshow, and it's like an art drawing showing you almost like a storyline of how the villagers came to be the way they were, and it's showing you them slowly getting turned and things like that. I thought that's so cool. Just having it at the end of the game. Obviously that was just sort of artwork that probably the artist had done during the game's concept art and all this. And I thought, what a neat wee way to show the art first of all, but also give you a kind of padding of the storyline, because you are technically killing fucking poor villagers.
Because that's
really
the very first thing the game starts off. Like, you're getting driven down the road by the police. You have a picture of the president's daughter. You go into the first cabin, say to the geezer, hello, do you know who this girl is? And he's like, yeah. He's poking a fire. You go, alright, I'm sorry mate, no problem at all. Turn round, swings an axe at you, and you go, Leon's like, I don't want to kill you, but you've just tried to chop my head off. It's like, get back. And he's just acting manic, so he kills him. He's like, what? Why is he acting like this? At the time you don't know, because you're used to zombies.
Because he goes, he's not a zombie.
Because I can't remember, I don't know if it's 4 or 7 years after Leon is in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's supposed to, like, we're not going to get this right, but it is several years after Resident Evil 2, and Leon's like a kind of special agent now. Hence why he's been sent in to find the president's daughter.
He's got Bane's jacket and cut it in half.
But obviously one of the best game openings ever. Not just that wee section. When you go into the town, it's an amazing game opening, which really sets the tone for the game. Have you got anything you want to cover on?
No, I think we've covered everything. Great game, the best Resident Evil.
Yeah. It's probably one of the few games I own on multiple consoles. I legit own loads of copies of it.
Yeah, same here. I think I have it on the GameCube, I've got it on the PlayStation, got it on Steam, got it on any console I could have got it on my hands on at the time. I just wish I had that chainsaw controller.
No you don't. Terrible. And my neighbours are getting rowdy, so we'll wrap this game up now and move on to our next one.
It hits you suddenly. Just a glimpse. A piece of the nightmare you thought you'd forgotten. Fear you can't forget.
Resident Evil 5.
No.
Resident Evil 5, everybody.
Yeah.
Really positive on it. I'll just quickly run down what it came out for. So this came out March 2009 in Japan. It came out actually basically all within a week. Japan, Australia, North America, PAL, all in March. PS3 and Xbox 360. Eventually get a PC release end of the year in those same regions, and then eventually get a re-release called the Gold Edition. I think it had additional maps or something for multiplayer, I don't know. Really,
because nobody cares.
I really don't want. I mean, it's out. No doubt there'll be people out there like, fucking give the game a chance. We did when we originally paid like 40 quid for it.
Yep, this is the game that killed the franchise for me.
Yeah. Well,
And
this is when I
Probably
thought.
everyone.
Yeah. How hyped were we?
Omega. As soon as you've seen that E3 trailer, as soon as you've seen screenshots of it, it's like yeah, these beards, individual hairs, and they're all programmed to move themselves. Like, sweet. Then you play it and you're like, sheet.
So, this is the start of what would really become the modern Resident Evil game.
Action games.
Yeah, and it's basically they looked at the numbers and went, that Resident Evil 4 game sold a lot of money. What did we do different? Well, we had a lot more action in it. That seemed to actually help. So they looked at it and went, action. What other games are selling well at the moment? Obviously Gears of War and all that. Action games. First person shooters, Call of Duty. So I think the idea was obviously introduce more action equals more buys. What else will equal more buys? Oh, how about if you buy a copy, then your mate will have to buy a copy and you can play co-op online. What's that? You don't have a mate to play online, or the online obviously structure in your hometown or whatever sucks. Oh, don't worry, we'll cover you with an AI character who uses up your health tonics.
Who uses the same inventory as you do.
Yes, you share inventory, which is also a live inventory, because the game's supposed to be played co-op, right? So when you press start, it doesn't pause the game.
Nope.
So if you need a piss, you're fucked. It's similar to Dark Souls, but at least Dark Souls, even though it has that kind of weird co-op, it isn't strictly a multiplayer game. It is still a single player experience. Resident Evil, it really, I remember being so excited for this, and well, you were saying you were sat there, obviously, your brothers obviously grew up in the same house, you're sat there playing the game, and kind of going, oh, you want to do that? I mean,
They've never done that with any other ones.
Any other game, you're usually like, oh, I can't wait to stop hogging the game. That game, it was kind of like, you want to play this section?
Yeah, that's what we're saying, like, trying not to admit to each other going, this game is shit.
Yeah. I bought it, again, like yourselves, pretty much the week of release. Probably not day of release, but it was well within the week. And sat down, I had like several hours. I knew I could sit and play this. About half an hour into the game, I'm like, I'm not really feeling this. An hour into the game, I'm really not feeling this. And I thought, there's something wrong. But I was honestly like, well, clearly it's nothing wrong with the game, it's just me, there's something, why am I not feeling this? I'm not in the mood for playing this. So I put it down, left it for a day, went back to it, went, right, going to get right into this. Played it for about 45 minutes, so that's an hour and 45 total, and I'm like, I don't like this. This is not good. And it was just kind of, I can't even fully explain exactly. It's not as if you can pinpoint. I mean, the co-op thing isn't really a good idea.
No.
Yeah, on paper it kind of works. You're kind of, how cool would it be? We've all kind of thought that, especially when we were younger. Like, how cool would it be to play those types of games co-op?
Yep.
But survival horror games to me work as a single player experience.
Sitting in a dark room.
Yeah.
Maybe with, as we all thought at the time, going, wow, it's different. It's a different Resident Evil because the trailer showed you as in daylight, outside, wide, vast, open environments. Going, wow, that's kind of different. I'm liking this. It's not, doesn't seem so linear. But when you play it, you're like, maybe survival horror should be dark rooms, should be creepy houses, should be creepy mansions, settings, towns, whatever.
Well,
give you a wide setting, but give it at night time. Give you something to creep you out. Don't go, well, kind of feels like I'm fighting the same person over and over again. It
felt like the game had become like those kind of bright settings like that, and military settings remind me of Call of Duty, obviously, because it's always bright and sunny in those games. and obviously the gameplay reminded me of Gears of War, and it felt like a moulding of those two games. It just didn't feel like Resident Evil. I mean, Christ, it's Chris Redfield.
Who
Fucking
looks
love Chris
nothing
Redfield.
like Chris Redfield.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like, I mean, it's an old joke now. Oh, steroids, blah blah blah. But he is ridiculously massive in this.
Pretty jacked.
And he's decided to dye his hair.
Yeah, he's got lighter hair now. No longer dark hair. They've made him look like some sort of kind of like Hollywood actor. Really, so I don't know if they had some sort of kind of casting in one of their movies where the cast would like, by the way, Resident Evil 5 make Chris Redfield kind of look like the actor we've got here. I don't know, because I didn't watch anything after the second movie. I think
watched anything past the first.
and I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. They're still making them. So the storyline, Africa. You're in Africa. It's the Los Plagas or whatever they're called. So you've got them again. Spread there, involving Wesker. You now have your AI character who helps you is Shiva, which can't remember really much about her at all, to be honest. I don't think she would really, the game wasn't interested, so I wasn't really feeling the characters, to be honest.
She'll go down worse in co-op history than Tails did in Sonic 2.
Well, basically, you imagine having, how bad is it, when you think about it, how bad is it if you're playing like Counter-Strike or even like that Call of Duty and you've got somebody who's completely useless in your team, right? How annoying is that? It's quite annoying, but it happens. But it's annoying. Imagine playing a whole single player experience like that where you've got a completely useless fuck who keeps using your health potion. I say health potion, been playing too many RPGs.
Using your herbs.
Your herbs. Using that, using your fucking ammo, you know, it just like, and continually getting hurt and you're calling out to you, so you have to go and rescue it. I mean, it's one big long escort mission, really. And she's technically supposed to be there to aid you, but it doesn't work that way at all.
Well, when I first played the game, sat and I finished it in 2 days, and I've never went back to play it.
Well done.
2
You
days.
actually finished it?
Finished it, and I couldn't tell you what happens. I remember being on a boat, getting dragged along by something.
I
shooting something with,
remember
like, a rocket launcher.
thinking, God, this game's going to start getting good when within the first 10 minutes you see the guy with all the pins in him with the sack in his head.
Oh yeah.
Cut off the person's head, and you're like, wow, okay, now it's going to start being Resident Evil. We're going to start seeing what it's all about.
I actually kind of thought Silent Hill.
Yeah.
True.
Pyramid Head.
What's his name?
Pyramid
Head. That's
Rapist.
So that you going?
And I just thought, like, going, right, okay, it's been a bit shit. This wee bit's been a tutorial showing you how to jump up, showing you how to tell your other person to move.
Trying
And
to
then-
recreate the lightning in the bottle, which was the first, the area. The first wee town that you're in, and you're getting attacked from all sides.
So that's what I thought, going, right, okay, now Resident Evil 5 is really going to happen. That's got that bit out of the way, it's showing you how to play the game, you're going, okay, this is the mechanics, but then it never lit the flame underneath it. It just seemed to be the damp squib from there on.
Yeah, it was such a chore to play. You have to go to doors, and obviously you can't go through the doors yourself. You have to wait for your character. But it doesn't, instead of, obviously game designers will think, oh, we can't pop up saying waiting on character and wait until they're there. No, if you're going through, and everything's double doors, by the way, every fucking doorway is double doors, and it's, you go and they make it almost like a quick time event. I know it's not, it's just basically press A and then the person comes up and 2 of yous line up and you burst through together. It felt as if they were shoehorning multiplayer games into my single player game, and I was not liking it at all. It's the daylight thing. Thought it was going to be interesting. I was like, oh, it's really real interesting. I was like, God, it's going to be set in bright hot day. One thing I noted about the earlier trailers, it almost looked as if that was going to be a gameplay element, the heat. I don't know if that ever was, but it kind of played up as if it could have been like your character can only stay out in the sort of soaring heat for so long or whatever. I don't know. I just don't know what was going on in their head. This game, technically, it sold loads.
Yeah.
Sold more than Resident Evil 4. So
That's because in the back of it, you were going, well, everyone, so many years had passed and people went, well, we now have these next gen consoles. You either had, it wasn't that you had to get a GameCube, you had to buy one specific console for this. They were both launched on the same day for both consoles. And everyone went, okay, we remember how good that game's been. People maybe, they only heard their friends go, Resident Evil 4 was amazing. Go, well, we'll pick up Resident Evil 5 then. Picked up, and then I'd like to see completion rates of it then. For the amount of games it sold, I want to see how many people actually sat and played the full campaign.
Because not many. I think it would be similar to Call of Duty. No, it's only like 13% of people actually play through the full campaign of the Call of Duty users.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Also, what you're saying is everyone was playing the online mode then.
Yeah. Well,
of Resident Evil 5.
Resident Evil 5 essentially you was there like a horde mode or something? I don't know. I didn't even touch it.
I don't play online for Resident Evil.
I'm sure there would have been something similar to like horde mode or zombie mode. You know, we were going to actually sit down and replay this. You know what? We might one day, just as a kind of a wee look into the game and just upload that onto YouTube as a wee kind of like example as how the game plays. But this was just such a disappointment after 4.
Oh, it was beyond disappointing. Just, as I said beforehand, it was the game that killed the franchise for me.
Well, at least it was at the time. I'm like, yeah, can't get much worse than this.
Well, that leads us on. That's a very, very. We knew it would be a very short talk on Resident Evil 5 because, to be honest, we would just sit. You'll just have us sitting moaning about the game. Didn't like it. Didn't enjoy it. I didn't even play through it originally. I completely lost interest. I think because I was saying earlier, I think I was about a ball hair away from actually completing the game, but I honestly had zero interest.
Couldn't bring yourself to actually do it.
Just and that's the first time in the Resident Evil franchise that I was really just completely
disheartened.
Nope, this is just shit. Which brings us nicely to Resident Evil 6. What happened here? Right, we'll quickly cover. I'll get my notes here.
I'll put this one out here. This is possibly the only main part of the series, of the Resident Evil series, that I've never even played. I had no intention of playing it, just because number 5 had bittered me so much. And before Mark runs down the details of when it came out, I remember sitting watching the Champions League football. It was possibly would have been December time, round about Christmas. I remember it was a European game and it was dark outside, so that must have been about Christmas time. And adverts came on half time. I was like, a cinematic trailer played, going, whoa, this looks cool. This kind of looks like a movie. And then I was like, oh, action game, sweet. Looks really, really, really good. And at the end of it, flashed up Resident Evil 6, and I was just like, wow, this looks amazing. Okay, this will be the one that turns the tide for me. This is going back to Resident Evil 6 as it should be.
Well, the trailers I managed to see, I'd seen that one, but the trailer that really got my hopes really up was Leon was featuring.
Yep.
It was dark, it was moody, it looks great, it's a great looking game, but it was like, right, they've got Leon back, and by the looks of things they've got some of the horror back. I mean, that's a dark, moody looking mansion there. Little did I know that was like literally you spend about maybe 10-15 minutes, if even that, in the game before you're like outside the streets going, ha ha, shoot people, blah blah blah.
Yep, well that was the whole point again, going, well, I get burnt by Resident Evil 5,
yeah, that's why you
so
didn't buy it.
I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait for reviews to come out. Read the reviews and I couldn't believe them, because I thought, wow, this game looks amazing, and then it just turned out to be smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, well, I bought this. I'll quickly run down. So it got released on PS3 and Xbox 360 in 2012, PC 2013. I won't go into much more detail than that because I could not be bothered. So the game, I'll quickly run through my notes here. Looks great. great graphics. Straight away you can pick campaigns. The campaigns is specific characters. So specific characters is Leon, Chris Redfield, Jake, Wesker's son. Right? I know I had to put a note there. I was like, who the fuck is Jake? And Ada Wong. I'm like, you don't have to unlock her. How interesting. So straight away I was like, fucking Leon, right into Leon, because I was like, Chris Redfield, you were my man, but 5, mate,
You've pissed in my chips.
you blew it. So I was like, Leon, you haven't really put a foot wrong so far. Well, did I know he started in a really pishy Game Boy game.
Don't get me started about game.
But so I was like, right, starts Leon, gun pointed to a zombie president, and this is literally the first few seconds, like, Mr. President, and he's like got a gun pointed, and the lassie, the president's daughter, is like, Leon, no, and he shoots the president, which is quite funny. Like, great opening. You're like, oh, what the fuck?
Is it the president daughter from Resident Evil 4?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh no. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. She is actually in the game. It's a woman. It's a random woman. I can't remember her name. You meet up with the president's daughter. She's with Jake. She's on Jake's missions. So you shoot the president. It's quite funny because literally as soon as you shoot the president, Leon gets on the old dog and bone, and they're like, "What's going on? Is the president all right?" And Leon goes, "I've just shot the president." And he's supposed to be there protecting him. I thought, that's amazing. So straight away I'm like, this is quite kind of funny. I'm liking this. Really dark and moody as well. It was kind of like, see the Resident Evil remake, the way the mansion's shot. This is the way the lighthouse looks. Like all the lights off, so you're going through and you're getting a feel for the game. Kind of tutorial section. Similar controls to 5 pretty much. Slightly different HUD, which is different for every character.
Is it?
That's interesting. Kinda cool, but certain characters have HUDs that don't work. Like, as in, I don't feel as if they're as good as certain other characters has, but very interesting. This is me being actually nice to the game so far. I've covered the good parts. So, game dark and moody, and you're going through the mansion. It's very slow build. No any zombies, lightning, making your way through. You're hearing noises, making your way through. Seeing shadows, you're going, oh, this, like, they've got it. They've went back to their roots. They've done it. You go outside, like, all right, it's dark, you know, and then you see an army truck. You're like, oh, right, the army's here, and you think, oh, all right, it's revealing that all hell broke loose.
Well, that happened in other Resident Evils, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't mind that. I was kind of going, all right, kind of cool. Then you fight your first kind of zombie, and then you fight a lot more zombies, and then it just turns into from me thinking this is like Resident Evil 4 meets Resident Evil Remake, literally started turning into, this is just Resident Evil 5. I have my annoying character who no longer's dipping into my pockets for my herbs. You know, she's no longer chewing on them while, you know, in the corner while I'm getting bitten. No, so the AI works slightly better, but
all she does is scream for help.
yes,
And you got to just go. It's like
volley them.
Yeah, Leon is now a kung fu master
Yes.
who can volley
To
things.
be fair, he kind of done that in Resi 4, but that was only if you got him in the right position and the zombie was kind of in the right position, it would quickly flash up, press A, and you would just volley
The zombie's head off.
But now Leon literally
Overhead
just,
kicks a zombie's head off.
you can conserve your. I started realising I didn't have to really shoot zombies. You just run up and start punching and kicking fuck at them.
Really?
Yes. I was playing it on normal. I wasn't playing on easy, and no doubt on hard you wouldn't really be able to do this. But yeah, I was able to just kind of. I soon realised big group of zombies. Your first thought is stay away from that big group of zombies. No, first thought is get in as close as possible to those group because I need to roundhouse kick them all. I am literally fucking Patrick Swayze in this game, roundhouse kicking everybody in the face. Sounds like fun,
It's
but
not.
again, this is a survival horror game.
Yep.
Where is the horror here? It's just basically
Does the game not count as itself?
yes.
Yes, the game is horrible.
I love the fact, being very sarcastic, that the smallest wee step, tiny wee step, like minuscule to the point of I'm wondering, why is it asking me to press A? Is there a ladder up above that I can grab? No, Leon apparently needs a command to go up a tiny wee step. I'm like, what the fuck? That is in obviously other versions of the game, but generally that was to kind of hide loading areas or whatever like that. This game, the controls are no longer tank. It controls like like Tomb Raider and stuff like that, right? The over the shoulder isn't as intense, not as claustrophobic. It's a field of view, bit wider. It feels, again, it almost feels, now Gears of War, your character's in the centre of the screen. It feels as if they're almost slightly going for that a wee bit more. Playing through Leon's campaign's the only one I actually played through all the way through. I'm just quickly cutting to the end here because it is just Resi 5 essentially, right?
Reskinned.
It is Resi 5 reskinned. It's better, I will give it is better than Resident Evil 5, but I don't know how you judge that because Resident Evil 5 was such a disappointing, crushing game. This game is kind of like, you're not as disappointed because you're like, I was disappointed, like, oh, it kind of looked good, but my hopes weren't as high going into it. I kind of knew they might fuck it up, and they did. Cutscene. This game feels like it's a movie. Did fucking David Cage direct this game? Because that's what it feels like. I feel as if I've got that little French director fuck in the corner going, oh, you don't understand, it's about the... No, fucking give me the game, I want to play the game. It's like, there is QTEs, there's not a lot, but there is. There's loads of cutscenes. There's a part in the game where I literally went through one area, cutscene, I went, okay. Literally, it was like 15 fucking steps and there's another cutscene. And I'm like, what is going on? What, like, this game, yes, I get it, they're going for a more cinematic vibe, but the storyline's fucking bollocks anyway. You're just like, we get it, Wesker. No matter how much you try and tell us it's got nothing to do with Wesker, it's always going to be something to do with Wesker.
How many times has Wesker died?
Well, he dies...
Lazarus, I think.
He dies about 3 times in this game, I think.
But if you can, but in previous games you kill zombie Wesker as well.
Yeah. Well, you kill Resident Evil Code Veronica, you kill Wesker. Like, I don't even know if it is fucking Wesker in this game. There's some... it is actual Wesker. I remember it. Shades speeding train and shooting at him. He's on the opposite. The spectacles are huge. It feels as, again, Call of Duty, it's just like they're trying to up the spectacle.
Yeah.
It's like fucking crashing trains.
I thought you meant Wesker spectacles.
Aye. Well, he's still wearing these bifocals, you know. He's like at night, pitch black, and he's got fucking shades
Ray-Bans on.
Aye.
That game, I played 50 minutes of it, switched it off, and vowed never to play it again, and I haven't. What a pile of shit. Worse than Resident Evil 5.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
That I don't think it is as bad as Resident Evil 5, but that's really not saying much. That is not. It's not as if it's like, well, play it because it's just not as bad. No, don't play it. Especially don't pay. I paid a £5 for this game.
I bought it day one.
I bought it 3 months afterwards and paid a £5 for it, and I thought, well, it can't be that bad. £5? £5? What's that? And no, I was fucking raging.
I'll never get that £5 back. That is no resale value.
Fucking Capcom, man. Like, there's a skill system as well in the game.
I just remember the mobile phone being an absolute pain in the dick. I
the HUD,
hated it.
There's a in-game HUD/options menu, and it's done like a smartphone.
Why is this more prevalent in games nowadays, where just because everyone in the world has a mobile phone these days, video games nowadays, your character doesn't need to interact with the phone?
Oh. Well, it's GTA, innit? GTA 5 had it.
Just need to tweet.
GTA 4 had it.
Yeah, it's just...
I like them in the GTA games, but...
Oh, because that gave you
GTA
missions.
4, fucking, hey, guys in! You're like, fuck off.
But even in like Grand Theft Auto 1, 2, you had that page where it gave you your missions,
go to the payphone.
Go to the payphone, this and that, whereas in later games, but now it's like you interact with your phone by going, well, I now have a menu system, so let's play the menu system on my phone, and it's not a Nokia, so you can't even play Snake, which would be more fun than playing Resident Evil 5 and 6.
I'm just, again, glanced at my notes there. There's no real, there's puzzle elements to this game, but they're barely puzzle elements. Similar to 5, where what you do is get your AI character
to stand still.
Yep.
And you run across.
You go and stand on that thing, or pull that thing, or push that thing, while I go and either protect you as you make your way across it. It's loads of those sections over and over, like to a ridiculous amount. So I played through the Leon section, absolute buzz. Started playing through the Chris Redfield section. I thought, this is weird. Even though you come across the other characters through your campaign, obviously thinking that's a neat idea because you see all the different sides of the story. Not so much a neat idea when you realise you're just playing through the exact same areas, just at a different time scale. It's like you're on the exact same street with the exact same burned out fucking bus, and it's just like, oh, but this was 3 hours before Leon got there. And you're like, well, fucking when Leon turned up there were still enemies there. It's like Chris Redfield, just shoot a couple of bad guys and leave. No, when you play against Chris Redfield you need to kill everybody and move on. It's just basically is reskinned playthrough. That's what it feels like. It's obviously a wee bit more different. You go into a different building and then you see a different point of view of the boss battle, but it's
so why
not
don't they all
different
just
playthroughs.
gang up and go through the game together?
Oh, they find a bit of $1,000,001 reasons to split up. It's like, oh, Chris, oh, and then it's just like, oh, see you then. And I'm like, well, like, shouldn't you work together? And they're kind of like,
where's Barry when you need him?
aye, well, this game needs more Barry Burton. That's my final verdict. Needs more Barry Burton.
Resident Evil 6 and suck a dick.
So that's 5 and 6. A very, very quick run through of it, and it's fucking yeah, boss.
But then there was a slight surprise.
So when I was giving up all hope, we'll just quickly cover this because the podcast's running a bit long. Well, I was about to give up all hope on Capcom. I was like, fucking Capcom, they fucking ruined it. Fucking gunny dogs, fucking ruined it. Raging. Bob goes, why don't you try Resident Evil Revelations? And I went, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's a game that came out for 3DS, but it get ported over to Xbox 360, PS3 and all that. In between like 2012 and 2013. So it's originally for the 3DS in 2012 and then get an HD port in 2013 for the PC, Xbox 360, PS3 and Wii U. I played this on the PC, got it in a Steam sale, very, very cheap, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a bash. This was a nice wee surprise.
Yep.
This, I don't know what section of the Capcom team made this.
The handheld division.
Whoever this is, give them more funding because they clearly have an idea of where it should go.
Yep.
It's not perfect by any means. This is a really, really kind of good 7 out of 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it basically replaces the mansion with a ship.
Yes.
So you're stuck on the one ship. Well, technically 2. You end up going to another one, which surprisingly is the sister ship.
But you also end up at one point in a building as well. It gives you kind of a little backstory with Jill.
It does keep it. You do every so often, storyline wise, jump and play through another section as another character, and it and then eventually you all end up in the one ship. But in general, 90% of the gameplay's on this creepy kind of ship. It's not got zombies. It's like these pale fucking creatures that are weird and
junkies.
Yeah. It's kind of like, clearly they were made because they were like 3DS obviously isn't the most powerful handheld, so they didn't have like loads of textures on. They're pale skinned, really odd looking, but I hadn't really found it brought back that claustrophobic feel to it because you're on a ship.
It was nostalgic. It was what Resident Evil was, and it's what everything Resident Evil isn't these days. It wasn't scary.
No,
but you had you had the puzzle elements, which were fun. Which
there was a lot more of that.
It wasn't tiresome. It wasn't like, oh god, I can't be bothered doing this puzzle. You had more or less zombies coming at you, give or take.
They were monsters essentially instead of obviously humans.
You had your inventory was nice. You had limited ammo. You could do it. Just harked back to the old survival horror roots of the game. It wasn't an action game per se.
So it might be a really harsh edit there. Slightly interrupted. Rowdy house. How rude. So can't really remember exactly what I'm saying, but pretty much good things about Revelations. The only thing is, I would advise pick it up cheap because it is a short game. I clocked in, my first playthrough was just over 5 hours, right, and that's including not so lengthy cutscenes, but a fair few cutscenes. So there's not a lot of game there, but what there is was quite enjoyable.
Same. I think my play was maybe 6 or 7 hours, but I was savouring it. I was going, wow, this is old school Resident Evil. This is what I was texting Mark today saying, you need to get this game, you need to play this game.
Looked at my notes, no QTEs, I've got that in capitals. Just a quick bash of the A button every time somebody grabs you.
Yep.
There's no actual QTEs. That was really surprising because, as I said, the cutscenes in the game aren't really that long.
No.
Don't know if it's because obviously the 3DS might have trouble with that amount of storage or something. But that was really quite refreshing, especially coming up because I went straight from Resident Evil 6 to this game, and it was like a breath of fresh air. It was really nice. But I would recommend. That's just a small wee tidbit, and that as I says, quick wee playthrough. Pick it up. It is cheap now, pretty sure, but it is very good. Don't know how it plays on the 3DS. But it plays quite well on the PC. I played it with an Xbox 360 controller, so I'd imagine it plays pretty much the exact same on the Xbox 360. Yeah, nice.
Resident Evil.
So you might be thinking, well, that's it. You've covered the Resi games. Well, I actually have a couple more, or Bob has a couple more.
Yep, this won't be a very long review. It'll probably be about like a review, just a little talk about a couple of games that I played. One is a long lost game, which is recently hit the internets, maybe within the last year and a half or so.
Illegals?
I did say it was illegal-ish. There was a lot of rumours back in the day. People probably seen these screenshots in your magazines of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
At the time, but then everyone knows the story that Resident Evil 2 got cancelled and they remade it again with different characters, different storylines. The original Resident Evil 2 had more characters but wasn't as detailed, and Leon was still in the game, but Claire Redfield wasn't. It was Elsa Walker, which is a better name than Claire Redfield, but they decided to then change to Claire Redfield to give the characters going, well, at least it is something to do with Resident Evil 1 in the game. You can go, well, Leon's a new character, he works for Raccoon Police Department, which the first game took place in, but it's still nothing really to do with Resident Evil 1, so that's why they put in Claire Redfield, who is Chrissy's sister. So anyway, this game was panned and it resurfaced as someone found, well, I think on a forum they'd been talking about it for years, and then it reappeared as someone had managed to get early code in the game, and they've been working on it for years. The version I've played was about 30% complete.
So it's actually playable?
It's playable, aye. It's actually, it's a really, as it's 30% complete, it's a very early buggy build of the game, but it's still so cool that a game that everyone thought was lost, that would never see the light of day, like we spoke about earlier on about Resident Evil 4, the different possible games of that has surfaced. Anyway, so I did. It's available to download on different websites, but the one I got, as I said, is 30% complete. I think they're trying to work through and add different texture to the game, different sounds, and work on the game to get a proper not almost retail version of the game. We won't get 100%
No, not at
game,
all.
but we will get a little bit closer. So I don't know really what was 0.5.01.
And obviously we're never going to know the original idea of how the game would really play through.
No. But anyway, might as well get into it. I played the game. You start the game. You do get, in this version I played, you get the choice of choosing Leon or Elsa. So I thought, might as well go Elsa and see what you can do. Started the game. Game starts off. It's very buggy. You can walk through items. You can walk through parts of the wall. Like, obviously in Resident Evil, the early Resident Evil, it's pre-rendered backgrounds. There's a table that's just kind of rendered a little bit 3D, but in this you can walk through the wall, you can walk through pillars. Again, I never really done much in it. I got through a couple of doors.
So does it still have the traditional door?
Loading screens, but again, it doesn't look. It doesn't.
Because it's unfinished.
It looks unfinished, but it looks like a Resident Evil 1. Doesn't look anything like Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
You, as I said, walk through a door, and a kind of cutscene happens where a zombie's coming towards Ella. This is the same point where it's not widely known that Raccoon City's turned into a zombie cesspit. It's
your character's literally kind of wandering about like ta ta ta.
Yep. Go. Oh, wait a minute. I'm in a police station type idea, and there's the zombies coming towards her, and she's going, "Don't hit me. Leave me alone. I'm sorry. I'm trespassing. I'm sorry I scared you. Don't hit me." And the zombie's like, "Oh, I'm a zombie. I've got a kettle
Tries
cord."
Tries to bite her.
Cheeky
bastard.
So at this point you don't really have a gun. Well, I didn't find one anyway. You run away from it.
Did you not just roundhouse kick them?
No, that wasn't really sure in this game. But again, the texture's really poor on it. I couldn't tell what it was. You exit the room. And there's the first thing you're greeted by is a block floating in the air, like a wooden box just floating. So like, okay.
Sounds really spooky.
Yeah, you're like, oh god, it's ghosts and zombies now.
Oh, cubed ghosts.
Anyway, I went to the pause, the menu system, the inventory screen, and it's slightly different from the other ones, but I've kind of figured out by hitting other buttons you could go through every item in the game. But not a lot of them were. You can equip them.
So it's very much clearly a developer build.
Yeah, it's a debug mode basically. You're playing. You can kind of go through it and play little bits of it, but the game more or less crashed after about 10 minutes of playing. But like I said, there might be a working version out there someday. So
interesting though.
Yeah,
really?
Definitely. I would say that if you're interested, I know there are walkthroughs on YouTube of it. People are actually probably get later versions of builds of the game than I have.
The people want to know, does Poland Peeper have any current videos of it on his YouTube?
Not yet.
That's sexy mofo. Probably should. Let's get him to get a version of it and play it. So I should I have him in my contact list. But anything more to say about
Resident Evil 1.5? No, it was interesting to play the game, and hopefully one day we'll get a better build of it to talk about and play through a little bit more. But might as well just fire straight on to Resident Evil Survivor.
The light gun games.
Or light gun game, the one that I've actually played, that was released in March 2000.
Is this the PlayStation?
This is the PlayStation one. Right. It was a light gun game in Japan and the UK, but I'd read about it and it was that you weren't able to play light gun in America.
Why is that?
I don't know. Well, the game it's different from other light
guns are banned. Real guns. Okay.
It's different from other light gun games where you could actually walk around the environment. You used the control pad to actually walk around. So that's the way I played it, because I've only have LCD TVs or whatever.
Is that the guns had a D-pad on it? Do you remember that? Some guns had a D-pad.
Was that not a Dreamcast?
Was that a Dreamcast?
Dreamcast had a...
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Thingy, what's it called? The one I got for Time Crisis.
G-Con 45.
Yeah. And for some reason I'm thinking of playing that game with a D-pad, but I'm probably completely wrong.
As I said, I only played this game shortly just because I thought, right, I can give something to talk about quickly on the podcast. Played about... It's very hard to play with a control pad. because obviously you're crossing the screen,
Yeah.
but it moves kind of slowly, and you couldn't really figure out what to do.
It's kind of like the old live and kicking days. Up, left,
Yep.
left.
Uh,
Fire.
You play you play the game as a guy called Ark Thompson, who I don't think's in any other Resident Evil game.
Never heard of him.
He wore a green parka, so I remember from the cover art was him in a horrible little green parka. The game starts off and you're like, oh, I can't remember, but I must survive. That's what
Really?
that's his line, and you see a guy hanging off a helicopter flying away, you're going, oh god, what's that about? So you walk through the first door and there he is lying, he's getting chomped by a zombie, he's falling off the fucking helicopter like an idiot. You check his body and there's a cut screen of a like kind of shaky first person camera behind you,
Mhm.
and it turns out to be a zombie, so you turn around and this is when you're meant to whip out your G-Con 45 and shoot him. So I just used the pad, went bang, 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 but I didn't seem to think that headshots done any difference towards
What's
the
the
shot.
no difference?
I couldn't see it, but again, I never played that much of the game to actually get through it. What I found though, every single time you kill a zombie or you go into a different area, you have to find a key in that zone to go to the next part to unlock another bit of the game, and it doesn't flow like a Time Crisis or a Point Blank or a Virtua Cop, anything like that.
See, I still think this way. I don't treat that as even being part of Resident Evil games. I know it technically has the license, but I just really don't see it as being. I feel as if it's some sort of kind of cheap bargain bin knockoff.
Yeah, it was cashing in on the Resident Evil name before Resident Evil 5 and 6.
So yeah, not really good as a light gun game or a Resi game.
No, not at all. I know there was a Survivor 2 and then there was a Code Veronica shooting game, but I have never played any of those. I've never really read much into them because I couldn't be fucked.
Just couldn't be bothered.
No, so it'd have to be a much worse game than this to be shit, dog, bastard,
Well,
cunt.
Is that it? We finally got to the end. We got it.
After about 4
In the bag.
months of trying to finish Resident Evil series, thanks to Jim going, let's play Resident Evil, and us having big ambitions.
You'll not believe how relieved I feel right now just getting this done. Probably another 4 or 5 months before we sit down and actually record another one, but it feels so good just to fucking end this. Fuck you, Resident Evil.
Yeah, well,
Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4, sound, red.
Aye.
Revelations, you're okay.
It's actually alright.
The rest
But-
you can go take an absolute fuck for yourself.
But it's not been as enjoyable as we kind of thought it would be.
As Resident Evil Game Boy Color, it was ambitious but too much to handle.
Boss. Oh, right, end there. Thank fuck.
Stop holding your breath at once.
Has it occurred to you that he may be dead, Moo?
Get all close and essential. Where the fuck's my camera?